Alrighty, let's talk about the Lightning Fury Paladin for Season 7. Strike with Divine Vengeance as the Lightning Fury Paladin, a static warrior who chains lightning between enemies. This build will blend tankiness with powerful area of effect damage, making it ideal for players who want to survive in the thick of battle while dishing out electrifying destruction. Real quick, let's show kind of what the build looks like here. Just a heads up, I am in normal. I do not have a way to access the higher difficulties. So I'm just going to give you an idea of what this skill actually will look like. Generating, okay. Sometime this week. So we're just going to right click, right? Lightning Fury, fortunately, is a bit of a range skill. We get these balls that are going to spin around us as we attack, and they're going to shoot towards monsters. Really, really cool build, right? Very tanky, very fun to play. Thank you, Tom. Tom's amazing. Right? Easy. Now, we can also run things on here like our Holy Shock Aura. This will put us a big circle so that we can inflict things like stasis or lightning break on monsters. This is just going to one tap them, but this will be used for a debuff. Gives us some extra MTX on our character. So let's talk about it. First, we'll go through some pros and cons of the build here. Lightning chains for clearing, super satisfying to play. It has one of the best magic damage reduction buffs in the game. This is our Thunder Shield, right? This is going to give us a ton of damage reduction. You also have a Magic Find buff, right? The Holy Nova, whenever you use it, has a chance to proc a Magic Find buff. It'll also give you some arcane skill damage, which doesn't affect us, but it's really nice just to be able to get that additional Magic Find. If you're running around, you don't really have a target, you can spam it to try and get this buff up and then kill monsters. Just a little bit extra. And you're just very tanky on the Paladin. Very, very tanky character. Now, leveling Paladin can be a little bit slow. It can be a little bit sketchy for hardcore as you are playing kind of this melee skill that has, you do have lightning on it, but unfortunately it just doesn't have a ton of damage early on. So it is a little bit sketchy, but once you hit level 40, this thing absolutely blasts, right? You also have no real movement skill. There is ball lightning. I fucking hate this skill, okay? This is might just be a me problem, but I cannot stand this ball lightning skill. You use it and you get a big movement speed buff as well as you have a chance to become immune to damage. But I run into shit all the time. It could be like the smallest little pebble in the world and I would just be stuck on that thing. So completely up to you if you want to use it. I feel like once you get some movement speed while you're leveling through the axe, like this doesn't really do anything. Like you see how like slow you're kind of moving with it? I feel like I'd just be walking faster. Right? So use it if you want to. I hate it. And you're also going to be competing with gear with Bard and Stormweaver. Bard is the new class coming in Season 7. It has an entire lightning tree. So if you want to play Lightning Fury, you are going to be competing with that. And Stormweaver is just a popular class in the game, and it's completely lightning. So just a heads up. For skill trees, we'll talk about how we level the character. We do not get access to Lightning Fury until level 24, so we're going to have to be leveling with Vengeance. So we're just going to dump all of our points into Vengeance early on. This could give us the most amount of damage. Once you hit level 5, right, we start getting access to our sub-skill trees. This is really going to help with Vengeance, giving additional targets. We also get the ability to make it so that we don't actually have to walk up to the enemy and hit it. We can use it as a range skill that will always hit, which is really nice. But we're just going to dump our points into Vengeance, put a little bit of points into energy early on, try and find some leech. So life leech, mana leech, life mana on kill. This will really help with your early sustain. At level 8, we'll continue putting points into Vengeance to get more damage, right? Level 16, you can see we have access to the Holy Shock Aura. So you can put points into this. Some people like to just dump everything into Holy Shock Aura and respec their tree and just run around with a circle to kill mobs and then have a second setup that they use for bossing. Personally, I actually preferred going more into Vengeance and then putting 1 point into Fanaticism. I didn't feel like the Holy Shock Aura was really doing that much comparatively, but this is up to you. You can respec for free. You can try both. This is what I went with. At level 24, we do gain access to Lightning Fury. I still felt that Vengeance was doing way more damage at this point. We are also going to respec our tree. The reason for it is this synergy here is actually not just an increased damage synergy, it's a more damage multiplier. It's a more lightning damage multiplier. So this is going to give our vengeance way more damage, right? So balance your points between these two. It'll help a ton. Same thing for level 30 through 39. Things do start to slow down just a little bit here. Make sure you balance your points between the two. It'll help you a ton for your leveling. And then also you can put 1 point into Thor's as well. This can give you a bit of extra attack speed and damage. As a side note, there is also Holy Aura. This gives you magic skill damage. You could put points into this and run this aura instead of Holy Shock, right? That's an option as well. If maybe you're in a party of people and they're using like arcane damage or something, that would give them damage as well. Now, once we hit level 40, we are going to finally spec into Lightning Fury. So we're going to put 20 points into Lightning Fury, right? Get 1 point to Holy Nova. This thing you can spam. It's going to give you a ton of life. You can also spec out the tree of Holy Nova to be a mana replenish instead of a life replenish. This will make it so you'll never run out of mana. And then after that, we'll dump all of our points into Eye of the Storm just for that more damage multiplier. Continue maxing all of your synergies for Lightning Fury. So you can see I have points into Vengeance. I have our Eye of the Storm maxed out, and we're starting to put points into Divine Storm. And finally, our level 100 tree. We have all of our synergies maxed out. We have Eye of the Storm maxed out. We put the rest of our points into Thor's, whatever it's called. Thor's is all I remember. And we also have 1 point wonders over here, right? Things like mana, faster cast rate. This actually can be impactful later on as you can get a source of teleport for the build. So that will help as you get cast rate. You could also maybe take a couple of points out of here and spec all the way down to the Venerated one. This will help you with a FCR buff later on. As you are teleporting, you'll be able to do that a little bit faster. But that's really only in that situation where you care about getting the FCR. For sub-skill trees, you get these starting at level 5. You get your first point. You get them every 5 character levels. To access the sub-skill tree, just press this plus sign on the top of skills, right? This will open up this window to allow you to spec out your sub-skill trees. This will give them a different effects, damage, that sort of thing. Now, I do have all of these listed out here. The first one being our Lightning Fury sub-skill tree. There's 2 variants to this. You have a crit variant and you have a strength variant. This character does have strength to damage conversion. This only becomes better whenever you actually have strength, right? So when you very first get into the game, when you're level 40, or even when you're in kind of the budget gear, you don't really have a whole lot of strength. So the value that you're getting for the strength to damage conversion isn't as big of a value as going this crit setup, where you get a bunch of additional damage, right? So I would recommend run the crit variant until you get a good amount of strength, and then you could swap over to the strength variant. You can respec these trees anytime, so you can check where you're at between the two. The crit variant basically it enables crit for the lightning portion of the skill. Your crit on items does not affect this skill, right? So you're not going to go get crit chance and crit damage on your gearing. You're only getting the crit from this actual sub-skill tree, okay? Then Holy Shock Aura, we're just using this as a debuff for Lightning Break, and this also gives us a nice damage buff. Ball Lightning, if you choose to use this dumb shit, you can have a chance to be immune to damage and get some movement speed. Holy Nova, this is where we get that Magic Find buff, as well as if you're having mana problems, spec this thing, you'll never run out of mana again. And then finally, we are going to be using Vengeance for quite a little while. So here's like the main portion of the Vengeance tree that you want to use. You want to rush this node right here. This is what makes it so that you can't miss your targets anymore. It's really, really, really nice. For attribute allocation, dump 2 points intelligence, 2 points vitality. The rest you're going to put into energy while you're leveling. This is just to give you a sustained amount of damage and life. If you feel like you're doing more than enough damage and you're not tanking enough, get more vitality. If you feel like you are overly tanky, you find a bunch of early life charms or something, you can dump more intelligence, that way you can get more damage. However you want to do this. Once again, you can spec this for free anytime. So yeah, another big part of this is energy. I feel like enough people don't know that they can get more mana by putting points in energy. This can really help with those first like 10 levels of the game where you're pumping a lot of points into your main skill, but you don't have a lot of energy to use it a lot. This can really help, especially with bossing, okay? Now, before you go with attribute stacking gear, there's a lot of gearing in the end game where you can really start stacking up strength and just attributes in general. You're probably going to go 2 points intelligence, 2 points vitality. And then later on, we actually are going to be dumping either all intelligence or all strength. It really just depends on how much strength that you get on the character. And it really depends on how much int you have total in your gear, right? So these are going to be pretty close overall, but definitely test between these. Use the target dummies in town to test between the two of which one ends up being more damage, right? These aren't going to be giving you any other advantage other than just giving you damage. So there's no point in swapping between the two to see which one ends up being better for your current gear. It really just depends on a lot of factors that, you know, I'm not going to go through every single situation and every single like changing one gear piece and now strength is better and changing one gear piece and now int is better. That's way too much. Just try it as you play, right? But I would say generally intelligence is going to be better right at the start because you're front loading your magic skill damage. And then as you get more and more gear, strength will probably become better because you have more attribute stacking. So cool. For gearing, this section is just going to give you a ton of different suggestions and workable items for both leveling, budget, mid-game, end-game. I have all of it in here. I have examples for each section, so you can definitely take a look at that. For leveling, we're not going to be finding any particular satanics. I'm not going to tell you to go farm for any particular satanics. If you find some that make sense for your build, by all means go for it, but it's a waste of your time to stop to try to farm out satanics from a certain boss over and over, right? However, rune words are generally guaranteed, right? You're going to get the runes for free. However, finding the bases is going to be a little bit harder. So be sure you're looking out for bases for these rune words while you were leveling. Once again, check out this section here. This will give you some rune word suggestions for every item type, as well as I talk about affixes that you care about getting while you are leveling. Things like lightning skills, lightning skill damage. This is flat damage for lightning skills. Magic skill damage, movement speed, attack speed, all of these things are super important. If you can find mythics with like 2 or 3 of these on one item, that's OP, right? So definitely take a look at the leveling section of just different affixes that we want to look for on items. And I would say another big part of leveling is getting boots, right? Quick steps. You can make these as early as level 31. These will help you zoom through the zones much faster. You can see these have 93% movement speed on them. So definitely try to make quick steps as soon as you can. If you can find a 2-socket pair of boots, fantastic. Otherwise, that's all you're going to need for leveling. This class of blasts at level 40. For budget gear, there's really not any best in slot gear here. There's a lot of things that you could swap out for like really strong mythics. If you find a +3 lightning skills ring with some magic skill damage on it, you might use that over some of the other options that are shown here. But I do have a ton of different examples that you could work into the build, right? So things like fanaticism are going to be really important. So you can get that on Valkyrie. This will give you a ton of additional attack speed. So Valkyrie ends up being, you know, a decent option to put on the character early on, but really any of these would be perfectly fine. For offhands, depends on how tanky you want to be. Geomecussers make you very tanky. Storm Gladiators gives you a ton of damage. Divine Contemplation give you a ton of res. Any of these would be perfectly fine. For helmets, I personally like going the Delirium. You could also wear something like a Flesh Ripper just to give you resistances if you wanted to, but any of these would be perfectly fine. For chest pieces, Astropos is the most damage. The rest of these would just be different utility. For gloves, you can see we have either Mythic gloves or you have Mevius's, Conjures. Boots, if you haven't made quick steps yet, make them. Or if you end up finding a Malrune, you can make Ghosts. Belts. I personally like Storm's Dawn. It's giving you the most amount of damage, but any of these would be perfectly fine. For rings, Tectonic Frequency is going to be the most damage, right? It's giving you a shitload of pen. But if you want to move faster, Kodos can be really nice in the situation. Or if you need res, Satanic Eye. For amulets, Thunderstone, I think is the most damage out of these here. You just get so much on Thunderstone. But you can get some magic find with All-Seeing Eye. And then lastly, charms. I have a ton of different charms that are listed in here. Get any of these, they'll make the build feel really nice. And don't forget about your mythic charms. You can get pen on charms. A lot of people don't know that. It is a little bit rare, but make sure that in your highlight filter that you get minus enemy lightning res on charms is really important. And you can also get magic skill damage on your large charms. That can really make a big difference in your overall damage, right? And another big thing that unfortunately has been nerfed is lightning skill damage. You can get these on your small charms, your medium charms, but like I said, they are much less than they were, but they can still give you some good value early on. Now for mid game, I do have an entire section here that talks about how to scale your damage. If you're not sure how lightning break works or extra damage, any of that stuff, you can read through to get an idea of what this is about. The Sheep King set, I do have that shown here. This is now Inferno only, okay? You can only farm this from Inferno Sheeponia. It is an insane set for the build, so I do want to show it as an option, but you're going to have to get Inferno access or access to the auction house to get these gear pieces, right? For weapons, Shaka Homie is pretty much our best in slot weapon here, right? Definitely get one that has everything on it that we would need. You get a ton of attack speed with up to 4 sockets, right? So you can socket in some additional attack speed. Really, really nice. You get pen, lightning skill damage, flat lightning damage, really good. For offhand, I like Gem Encrusted Tower. I think this shield is just so damn good. You get life, you get damage reduction, you get res, 6 sockets. Really, really nice. If you want something that's a bit more universal, you could go for Suomi or like Ancient Ages, right? St. Tommy's is obviously very rare, but very strong for the build. And then if you find the runes for crematoriums, you do need a few runes to make this. Put this on a +4 or +5 base. This is actually insane because you not only get the skills, but you get all res, you get life and mana %, and you also get extra damage to burning monsters, which in this build we get for free. So we're getting a ton of value with that extra damage to burning monsters. You can even put this on your back bar and use it as your bossing item, right? And then for general farming, maybe you care about getting resistances and damage reduction. For helmets, Delirium, try and find maybe a better base, right? +3 or more skills on the base to make a up to +13 Delirium. But there's also a ton of other options. Dragon Knights with that extra damage just comes from the Andrixia, there we go, in the Ruby Gardens, right? So you can farm that out. For chest pieces, I like Thunder Guardian's plate. I think you just get so much value for Thunder Guardian's plate. However, Gem King's Garb, if you socket 6 pristine topazes into this, you get so much lightning skill damage. It's crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy. So if you end up finding a Gem King's Garb, or you can pick one up for cheap, like either one of these you're not mad about. Gem King's probably is a little bit better in the end game, but it's going to be, neck and neck. And then we have Azarius if you want to be a bit tankier. Sheep King's Hide, once again, if you have access to Inferno. For gloves, Tectonic Grips, there's really nothing better here. Outside of maybe St. Otto's, but good luck with those. And then Fighter Magi's is a good option as well if you can't get Tectonic Grips. For boots, the new Thunder Roamer boots are actually cracked, right? These things have so much damn damage on them. You can farm these from the Rogue Chaos Towers. They come in from the Codex of Chaos, but you get extra damage to monsters inflicted with stasis at the 50%. That's crazy. You also get lightning skill damage percentage, lightning skills, all skills. These things are cracked. And 4 sockets. Get these, right? If you can't get these, there's Pearls and Dreams. These can give you Holy Aura. This gives you magic skill damage on top of the magic skill damage. These are decent. Crush Fleets, I know these are Fizz skills, but you could get a base that has lightning skills on it. And then you could also get this agility proc, right? So you have a chance on strike that you're going to get some movement speed and attack speed, which is really nice. So these could be really good for just general farming, even over the Thunder Roamers, to be honest. For belts, Lightning Sash has all the juice that we want, right? It's a really good belt. If you're farming for Inferno, while you're going through your Uber Damians, maybe you run into a Sash of Eternal Hatred, or people are farming Uber Damians, you could find like a +4 lightning skills, or honestly, you could just find a really good pen belt, right? 20 plus pen to lightning on a Sash of Eternal Hatred. It's actually quite nice. And then, once again, if you have access to Inferno or the auction house, Girdle of Eternal War is OP. That shit's OP. For rings, Tectonic Frequencies, start slamming these. You're going to get a few of them while you're playing, right? Slam these bitches and try to get some extra juice on them. If you slam like a socket on a Tectonic Frequency, go get a pristine topaz and throw that in there. You get so much extra skill damage. It's actually kind of insane, right? It rivals some of these up here. If you happen to get an Azazels or can afford an Azazels or whatever it may be, go farm out your Carp King Soul Gem or buy your Soul Gem, make your Azazels, mirror it with a Recool ring. Quickening Zephyrs can roll Paladin skills. That could be a decent option. You get the attack speed, movement speed, everything that you need there. And finally, you also have Storm Loop. These only come from Inferno. Again, if you don't have access to that or to the auction house, then these might not be an option for you, but these are insane. Amulets. Philosopher's Stone got a little bit of a buff. This is now +5 to lightning, right? Sorry, +5 to all skills. Really nice. Thoughts Agony comes from Amon Ra. It's been reworked in Season 7. So you're going to get things like intelligence to magic skill damage conversion. This goes up to 4%. This can be really strong. You get intelligence on this. You get skills. This has pretty much everything that you want. Steve's Neck can be good. Attributes. Terethials can roll some crazy shit. You can get like +3, +4 lightning skills and like more attributes or something like that. It'd be crazy. But that isn't an option you could go for while you're farming out your amulets or your Uber Damians. For charms, I have a ton of charms that are shown in here. Right, there's an absolute shitload of charms that are available. Some of the more important ones are things like Storm in a Vial. This will give you pen. Wind Token will give you pen. You want to try to hit 100%. Ignore enemy lightning resistance. It's going to skyrocket your damage. Outside of that, things like tablets are very flexible. Just because you can put Moonstone gems in there, you can put Unrunes in there, you can put Chaos gems in there, whatever you want, right, to give yourself damage, just to make them a bit versatile for the build. And then all the way at the very bottom here, this is a new charm that can be farmed from Hell5 and Drixia. This will give you a shitload of magic skill damage and an execute. Right? And an execute, which is crazy. Finally, let's talk about Molten Paw. This is actually just an S tier Satanic. You can put this on your back bar. This is what's going to allow you to have fire enchant, so you can apply burns to monsters, so you can take advantage of all the extra damage to burning. Really nice. Once we get to the end game, I'm not going to be showing anything with slams. All of this is just your typical gear. But I did want to give you an example of what our end game single target would look like. Now, this variant does not use the fire procking. You could swap out this gear for like a Stopfox Cleaver, the Dragon Knight's Helmet, Lilith's Charm, Scorching Roamers, or Chaos Walkers. So that would ultimately probably be better for your end game bosses, but you are much slower, right, with some of this stuff. So just a heads up. For relics, I went for Bible, Triforce, Magic Mushroom, Storm Dagger. You could swap out Storm Dagger for something else. If you wanted to go like Cake or Mayo Sock or any of those things, 100% you could. Triforce doesn't give you 30% resistance anymore. It only gives you 10. The site's not updated, so I couldn't give you an accurate one here. But just a heads up, this is only 10% res. You could also drop Triforce for something else. For potions, the main ones here, Ghostly Potion, Maggot Eye, those are going to give you attack speed, magic skill damage. Don't forget your coffee container. This is going to give you increased damage to burning targets. Also really important. For chest augments, Monstrosity is going to be your best upfront damage, right? You just get a bunch of elemental damage on Monstrosity. I think later on, if you end up swapping into Saint Otto gloves, I think Lethal Tempo actually becomes more damage, but it's only in a situation where you're using Saint Ottos. And then if you want to have like a secondary chest that you use just for teleporting, right? You could put Spellslinger on it just to teleport faster. Now, in the written guide, I have some information on hero levels, right? I have a whole YouTube video talking about how to spec out your hero level tree. Same thing for glyphs. There's no power that you gain from glyphs. They're only utility. So I have an entire YouTube video in the written guide that talks about glyphs. For mercenaries, you're going to use the Act 1 Merc. The main thing that we care about on the Act 1 Merc are Valkyrie or Aurora's Might. Aurora's Might giving you a ton of resistances, Valkyrie giving you a ton of attack speed. Pick between those two. Otherwise, mercenaries are just Magic Vine bots. Pick any of this gear here, slap a shitload of Vists in it, and get as much Magic Vine on your mercenary as you can. And there's a look at his skill tree. For loot filters, I talk about how to use the in-game presets for your loot filter. I also have a video and a written guide that talks about how to create a loot filter before Season 7 starts. I cannot give you one. There's no way that I can give you a loot filter in the Season 7 beta or in the Season 6 client. You will have to do it like that hour to 30 minutes before the season starts. You can log into local and go make your loot filter. I have an entire written guide that explains how you can do this and tells you like, okay, if you're playing a lightning caster, here's the things that you care about, or a lightning a lightning paladin, here's the things that you care about, right? So definitely give that a go. I have two options here. I'm hopefully going to have the website updated so that I will have in-game filters available on the website on day 1 or day 2. If not, I will export them and put them in all of my guides, so you will have those available for in-game filters around the end of day 1. Okay. Otherwise, just use the in-game presets. You can see over here these filter settings. Just use in-game hell, mid-game hell. Use those. You'll be just fine on them. And if you're a bit newer player, you need some additional information, I do have a ton of helpful resources in here. I have a 2.5-hour beginner guide, zones to farm before you get started, Season 7 patch notes if you want some additional information on what's going on for Season 7, how to mine faster. A lot of people don't really know how to get their mining. I got my mining from 0 to 1K in an hour on stream. It's actually it was 49 minutes. So you can mine very efficiently. This gives you some information on that. But with that being said, that is going to wrap up the build guide for the Season 7 Paladin. It is a very fun build. It's going to be very strong next season. I can't believe it. It actually got buffed for Season 7, which is wild. So we are streaming live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Grax_TV. We're doing more beta testing. Come by and say hello. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everybody. Sheesh.